Sometimes, the most dangerous people in your life are the ones who never raise their voice. They smile, they listen, they even help. And yet, after every interaction with them, you feel more exhausted, more unsure, and somehow less like yourself. You don't bleed, you don't cry, but slowly, you shrink. Viktor Frankl didn't talk much about toxic people, but he spoke deeply about meaning. And he warned us, the greatest danger is not pain, it's living without purpose. That's why this video is not about conflict, it's about clarity. Because some people aren't here to ruin your life. They're just constantly pulling you into a version of yourself that is smaller than who you were meant to be. And if you don't notice it, they'll take the most valuable thing you have, your alignment with meaning. So in this video, we're going to look at 5 kinds of people you must learn to walk away from. Gently, but firmly. Not out of hate, not out of pride, but out of loyalty to your soul. Let's begin. The one who avoids responsibility, but calls it self-care. They always sound calm, peaceful, spiritually balanced. They use words like boundaries, energy, protecting their space, and they look like they have it all figured out. But watch closely. Every time something hard needs to be faced, a truth, a conflict, a decision, they disappear. They call it choosing peace. But what they're actually doing is avoiding responsibility. Viktor Frankl warned us, freedom is not the last word. Freedom is only part of the story. Freedom is the negative aspect of the whole phenomenon, whose positive aspect is responsibility. In other words, real peace doesn't come from escaping people. It comes from showing up with meaning. These people will seem gentle, but they leave you with the burden. They don't carry weight with you. They walk away from anything that might require effort, truth, or depth. And over time, you begin to doubt yourself. Am I too intense? Am I expecting too much? No. You're just in the presence of someone who talks about peace, but lives in avoidance. And Frankl would say, that's not spiritual. That's just empty. Stay away. Not because they're evil, but because their version of freedom will pull you away from your own responsibility to yourself. The one who uses kindness to control you. They're always nice, generous, the first to offer help. And on the surface, they seem like the kind of person you'd want to keep close. But look deeper. Their kindness comes with a price. They give so that you'll feel guilty. They help so that you'll feel obligated. You start noticing it in small ways. They do things for you you didn't ask for, then quietly punish you when you don't return the favor. They say, I just want you to be okay. But what they really mean is, I want you to be who I need you to be. Viktor Frankl wrote, each man is questioned by life, and he can only answer to life by answering for his own life. But these people don't want you to answer your own life. They want your life to serve their emotional needs. The scariest part? It never looks like control. It looks like love. And that's what makes it so hard to walk away. But deep inside, you feel it. You're not free. You're not choosing. You're constantly reacting to their expectations, their moods, their silent disappointment. Frankl would say, a life without freedom is not a life with meaning. So stay away. Not because they're unkind, but because their kindness isn't rooted in love. It's rooted in fear. And fear disguised as love will slowly teach you to abandon yourself. The one who makes you feel guilty for growing. You start making changes, healing, creating boundaries, dreaming bigger, and instead of celebrating you, they say things like, you've changed. You used to be so chill. Not everything has to be so deep. It sounds harmless, even playful. But the message underneath is clear. Stay who you were. Stay small. Don't outgrow the version of you that made them comfortable. Viktor Frankl believed that meaning comes from embracing the full responsibility of our lives, even if that means leaving behind people who only knew us in our wounded state. He wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. But these people don't want you to change. Not because they hate you, but because your growth shines a light on their own refusal to grow. So they mock your journey. They call it too intense, too much, or too spiritual. And slowly, you begin to shrink again. Not because you want to, but because it feels safer to stay liked than to keep becoming yourself." Frankl would say, "You don't need to be liked. You need to live in alignment. Stay away from those who make your evolution feel like betrayal. The one who thinks their emotions are more important than your boundaries. You set a boundary. You speak clearly, calmly, kindly, but suddenly, they get upset, hurt, withdrawn, passive-aggressive, and somehow, you're the one apologizing. These are the people who believe their feelings should be the center of every room. And if you try to protect your time, your space, your values, they say you're cold or selfish." But Viktor Frankl knew better. He believed that a meaningful life requires us to hold our ground, even when others are uncomfortable. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." These people don't want you to choose your response. They want your response to always revolve around them. They confuse empathy with self-erasure. They weaponize emotion, not by yelling, but by quietly punishing you every time you act from your own truth. And soon, you find yourself shaping your words, shrinking your needs, softening every boundary, just to keep the peace. But if keeping the peace means losing your voice, that's not peace. That's emotional manipulation in disguise. Stay away, because someone who truly loves you doesn't ask you to disappear for them to feel okay.
The one who always needs you to be less, so they can feel like more. They love you as long as you don't outgrow them, as long as your voice stays soft, your light stays dim, your dreams stay reasonable. They joke when you speak too boldly. They shift the topic when you talk about your goals. They smile when you're hurting, because that's when they feel most useful. But when you start rising, rebuilding, speaking with clarity, suddenly they become distant, or critical, or subtly dismissive. And you wonder, am I doing too much? Should I slow down? No. You're just shining light into the places they've spent years hiding from. Viktor Frankl believed that each person must rise to the responsibility of becoming who they were meant to be, even if that journey makes others uncomfortable. He wrote, "Ultimately, man should not ask what the meaning of his life is, but rather must recognize that it is he who is being asked." Life is asking you to become, not just to survive, not just to stay palatable, but to become fully, fearlessly, meaningfully you. And anyone who feels threatened by your becoming will only teach you how to be less. Stay away, not because they're bad, but because you've spent too long building something sacred inside you, to keep dimming it for someone who only feels whole when you're holding back. Let them go. Keep your meaning. Life is not asking you to hate these people, or fight them, or prove anything to them. It's simply asking you to stop shrinking around them, to stop calling manipulation kindness, to stop labeling avoidance as peace, to stop confusing comfort with connection. Because the truth is, you don't owe anyone your silence just so they can feel louder. You don't have to hold yourself back just to keep someone else comfortable. Viktor Frankl taught us that meaning isn't something you find in other people. It's something you become when you live in alignment with your truth, your values, your willingness to suffer for something that matters. And anyone who constantly pulls you out of that alignment, no matter how polite, helpful, or familiar, is not supporting your life.
They are slowly separating you from your soul. So let them go, not because you don't love them, but because you finally love yourself enough to choose meaning over maintenance. Frankl once wrote, "What matters is not what we expect from life, but rather what life expects from us." So let this be your answer. I expect myself to walk away from anything that costs me my freedom, my clarity, or my ability to live with purpose. Let them go. Keep your meaning.